Good morning. I'm 21 UEC 123 V Sabarish, and my group's topic is Understanding India in Context of Intercultural Communication. I'm going to start off by talking about the pre modern and accounts of foreign scholars part and how intercultural communication played a big role in India. Before we get started, I'm pretty sure some of you might not know what intercultural communication is. So, intercultural communication refers to the a communication between people from two different cultures. Example, say a Muslim and a Hindu communicating. That's intercultural communication. So, moving on to the pre-modern India part. Throughout history, Indian people have interculturally interacted, learned, and shared knowledge with rest of the world. Even though India has a very unique geographical location, on one hand, India is isolated from regions and civilizations uh, due to the presence of Himalayas in the north and the oceans in the south. On the other hand, the proximity of the historical Silk Road to some Indians facilitated cultural exchange processes. The scholars have argued that Silk Road not only helped them in trade and commercial relations among the nations located on or near the route, but also enable intercultural dialogue and knowledge shared processes. For example, like Zoroastrianism supposedly borrowed some practices such as usage of fire as a means of purification from the Brahmanism. Again, intercultural exchange between Greece and India gave birth to an art form uh, named Gandharian tradition. So, from this, we see that from old age historical accounts, we know that many educational institutions existed in ancient India. Among them, Nalanda University and Taxila University were two prominent centers for learning. Some scholars noted that Nalanda University was one of the greatest universities in the world, and students and scholars from various countries such as China, Korea, Indonesia, etc., attended the universities. And from their account, it is evident that there was intercultural exchange of knowledge, idea, and religions. Now we'll talk about the accounts of scholars part and how intercultural communication played a huge role in it. Knowledge about pre-modern India, especially the educational systems, cultural practices, and the socio-economic conditions, was primarily shaped by foreign scholars who visited ancient and medieval India, um, including the time where the Greek Megasthenes and there were the Chinese scholars, Jin Yang and Fajian. Their accounts threw light on the education system, particularly the practices of Brahmins and the teachings of Buddhist scholars. They also wrote about various aspects such as social aspects such as caste systems, legal practices, socio-cultural norms, and commercial activities. In exchange, the renowned monks and scholars from India, namely Atissa and Dharmadeva, visited China and shared knowledge as well as translated several ancient texts. Their accounts present rich social portraits, and many of their descriptions resonate with the texts and conditions of contemporary India. Writings of Islamic scholars suggest that Muslim rulers prioritized foreign languages such as Arabic and Persian during their reigns. Both languages became languages of higher education, and Persia became the court language. There was also an emphasis placed on Islamic religious education, uh, and the mediums of instructions were Indic and Islamic languages such as Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, Arabic, and Persian, and etc. In addition, missionary activities were encouraged to convert local people to foreign religions, as well as to introduce English medium education. In contrast, some of the members of the British administration realized the value of Oriental learning. For instance, the Asiatic Society of Oriental and Learning was established, which played a significant role in cross cultural learning and knowledge exchange. Several Indian leaders, such as Gandhi and Tilak, challenged the British educational system, which privileged one way of knowing how it favored global technologies over the locals' knowledge and practices. And this pretty much sums up the intercultural communication in pre-modern and the accounts of foreign scholars part. I'll move on to my group will move on to talk about their topics.
Hello, my name is Sriram and my roll number is 21 UVC 138, and my topic is understanding India in context of intercultural communication. First off, what is intercultural communication? In simple words, intercultural communication is the idea of knowing how to communicate within different parts of our country. Example, within states. So I'll be talking about two subheadings under my topic, and the first one will be pop culture and cinema. India has one of the largest television networks in the world. Millions of households watch television in India, and the population is also another factor to it. The Indian cinema industry is one of the biggest industries in the world. It consists various regional language industries like Collywood, the Tamil industry, Bollywood, the Hindi industry, Mollywood, Tollywood. There are plenty of industries there in India. For intercultural scholars, it is important to study the stereotypes and misconceptions, or even proper values and histories of one state to another, which are being depicted on the visual medium, so that it directly or indirectly affects the ideologies and understanding of the audience, which is the people of the country. My second subheading will be new media and social media. The emergence of social media and new media have been rapidly increasing in our country. For a country which is comparatively slower in network speed and has a not so improved telecommunication infrastructure, India is among the top three nations on the globe when it comes to number of internet users. Did you know that India is the second largest market for Facebook globally? But, however, there is a huge contrast according to a recent UN report, which basically says that in terms of people's access to information and communication, India's global rank is 131 globally. This basically means that the people of rural and remote regions of the country still remain isolated when it comes to terms of information access. Now I'm going to give you a few examples to make you understand both the subtopics which I just talked about in a more clear way. Talking about the cinema point of view, there are so many misconceptions and stereotypes which has been spreading from one industry to the other. Many industries does not really understand how an other state or the traditions or the culture practiced in their particular state will work, which ends up offending the people belonging to the state. And examples for these are Bollywood movies like Chennai Express or Meenakshi Sundaram, which are movies of late. They triggered a lot of Tamilians, where Bollywood tried to depict the cultures and traditions of the Tamil people, but it really did not work well with the Tamilians. At the same time, there are also bunch of examples where states got to depict another state's situation or its history or its struggle or its greatness in a very artsy, very classy way. This basically just paves the path for people belonging to a particular state to understand and to visualize how exactly things work in another state. Lastly, new media and social media. Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, all these social media platforms, they're all new, but they have grown rapidly in the country, enabling any two individuals from anywhere around the world to connect. This enables different cultures, different styles, different informations which we had no idea existed in the world or existed in the country to be accessed at the tip of our fingers. New media, social media, pop culture, cinema, all these topics play such a vital role when it comes to intercultural communication, not just in India but in any country. Thank you.
Hello, I am Nitish. So my presentation is about understanding India in contextual of intercultural communication. So what is intercultural communication? Intercultural communication is a communication of people of two different cultures. For example, a communication of people between a Hindu and a Muslim. So intercultural communication can be symbolic, interpretive, transactional and contextual. So I am going to speak about intercultural communication of post-independent India and identity politics. So we got independence on August 15, 1947. After that, there was conflicts and riots between Hindus and Muslims. So that India was divided into India and Pakistan. So the majority of Muslims were moved to Pakistan. So there was no intercultural communication between the Hindus and Muslims. Nowadays, we have the freedom to talk with other religious persons, so that by the intercultural communication, we are not having any results and conflicts nowadays. So this is all because of the intercultural communication between other cultures. So then identity politics. So India is a vast country with multiple languages, multiple religions and multiple socio-cultural processes. So now first is gender identities. So in most parts of India, the women are still facing problems like they are not being sent out of their home and are still doing the household works, and are also facing problems like rape, abuse, child marriage and dowry death. The another important issue is problems faced by the transgenders. There is no proper communication between the transgenders and between the male and female. So that transgenders are facing so many problems in the society. They are not having respect in the society and they are not being given jobs in the society, and the government of India still didn't recognize their identities. So this can be only solved with the intercultural communication. So religious identities. India is the home of large Hindu, Sikh and Jain with the majority of populations. So there are many religious conflicts and riots between the religions because they are not having proper intercultural communication. So with the intercultural communication, they can speak with each other and they might have resolved the conflicts. And another problem is the majority of the religions do not bother about the minority religions. So the minority religions in the country are facing so many problems. So this can also be resolved by the intercultural communication with the majority religion and the minority religion. Disabled identities. So this is also a major issue in the country. There are all 2% of people in India are disabled. So they face many problems in the society. They are not getting a proper job and they do not have access to basic infrastructure, structural resources and security. They do not have security. So this can be only solved with the intercultural communication. The normal people must have communication with the disabled people so they can also grow in the society and enrich them.